what they said about Jesus on the right there and what they said about Horus, the son of God of ancient Egypt, was identical. Because Nimrod, Tammuz, Semiramis in Babylon, when these reptile human bloodlines took over the culture of Egypt, which had been started by the white race, the Phoenicians, they just transferred the same story and called it different names. So Nimrod, Tammuz, Semiramis in Babylon became Osiris, Isis, and Horus in Egypt. And again, right across the world, in different cultures and different eras, you see different names for the same deities. There seems to be a mass of names, very confusing. In fact, they're different names for the same deities. The cross is supposed to be a Christian symbol. It's not. It goes back as far as history goes back. This is a standing stone with the cross. Here we have Mother Mary holding Jesus, except that we don't. This is how the Egyptians symbolized Isis holding Horus. And again, in my book, The Biggest Secret, you'll see massive documentation of how this story just goes on being repeated. The initiates know what it means, the brotherhood. The mass of the people are asked to take it literally. What actually turned Christianity into the religion it became, and who decided what Christians believe to this day, was a Roman emperor called Constantine the Great. In 325 AD, he called a meeting of bishops in the early Christian church to his palace at Nicaea, now Iznik in northwest Turkey, and there the Nicene Creed was created. After they'd had a punch-up and ripped up documents and all that stuff, they decided the Nicene Creed would be as it is to this very day, and that's what Christians are supposed to believe. In this sign you will conquer, what Constantine said, and he was a sun worshipper. He worshipped a deity called Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, and Mithra and all this stuff. He had no problem with Jesus because it was just a different name he believed for what he was already believing anyway. What he said was that before a battle, when he was battling to become emperor, he saw a cross in the sky from Jesus saying, by this sign, or in this sign you will conquer in the battle, which sounds massively like what the Prince of Peace would say, doesn't it, really? So Christianity was a manufactured religion. Here we see the Pope. There's the Maltese cross, a brotherhood symbol that you can see to the present day. I'll come to that shortly. But on the Pope's head is the mitre. And if you look at it sideways on, it's actually a fish head. Why is it a fish head? Because that's the symbol of Nimrod, the Babylonian god figure, who they symbolized as a fish, as they symbolized his partner Semiramis as a dove. And this is where the fish comes from in Christianity, as well as the House of Pisces. So basically, and the Biggest Secret documents this in detail, the Babylonian group moved home to Rome, the New Babylon. Now, also in this story, if we move forward to the time of the Crusades in the 1100s, 1200s, you find that in the Middle East at that time, a series of knights organizations suddenly appeared, which are still going today, and among their members today are some of the top people in global politics, business, banking, military, media, etc. They were the Teutonic Knights, which relate to Germany. They were the Knights Hospitaller of St. John of Jerusalem. And St. John, incidentally, is a symbol of Nimrod, for reasons the Biggest Secret explains. And the other one, which I'm going to concentrate on for a few minutes, was the Knights Templar. And they all appeared around Jerusalem at the time of the Crusades. And the Knights Templar said that they'd created this organization originally to protect pilgrims who were visiting the Holy Land. Well, there's only 9 of these fellas for 9 years, which is going to protect a massive amount of pilgrims, clearly. After they'd parked themselves in Jerusalem, right next to what we now call Temple Mount, the so-called scene of Solomon's temple. But when you look at the background of Solomon, there is no evidence he existed outside the Old Testament, and every syllable of Solomon means the sun, another symbol. Anyway, after 9 years in the Jerusalem area, next to the Temple Mount, suddenly things started to move very rapidly for the Templars. Some of them went back to Europe, and they started signing up the noble families of Europe, and to particularly France to start with. And to join the Templars, you had to give them all your wealth. So they became massively wealthy very, very, very quickly. And they created two basic financial centers in their empire. One was in Paris, one was in London. Today, Paris and London are the two key centers of the operational level of the manipulation of the world. No coincidence. After a while, however, the King of France, Philip the Fair, who was up to his neck in debt to the Templars, decided that he was going to remove them. Now, this thing about debt's very important. You can follow through these bloodlines out of the Middle East, these reptilian human bloodlines that became the European aristocracy, etc., a number of themes that keep reoccurring. One is creating prison religions based on the basically same story, to keep masses in ignorance. Two is satanic ritual and blood drinking and such human sacrifice ceremonies, which are still going on today to the same deities they did in the ancient world. And thirdly, the scam where you lend money that doesn't exist to the population and charge them interest on it, which is what happens to this very day, of course. The debt we call debt in the world is actually debt that doesn't exist. It's just figures on a screen. There's no money involved at all. It's just a thought form. So what happened with the Templars is that they played this scam because they were part of this stream. And they got the crown heads of Europe up to their neck in debt to them, just as their successors have the governments of the world today in debt to them. So Philip the Fair wanted to bring an end to this, and there's more to that story as well. And on Friday the 13th, in October 1307, he issued orders, supposedly secret orders, to arrest the Templars on that morning. That's why Friday the 13th has been deemed unlucky ever since. Now, he got some of the Templars, but he didn't get most of them. They got away, and they went in three basic directions. One, they crossed the Atlantic to the Americas, and two other directions. First of all, they went off from their port at La Rochelle in France with the loot, because when Philip the Fair went to get the loot from the Templars in their headquarters in Paris, it had all gone. And they went in their ships, one group of them, around the outside, the west coast of Ireland and into Scotland. And there's a reason they did that, two reasons, in fact. First of all, Philip the Fair enlisted the support of the Pope to purge the Templars. But Scotland, with Robert the Bruce, etc., was in conflict with the Pope at the time, and therefore excommunicated, and therefore the Destroy the Templars order didn't apply in Scotland at that time. And also, a tremendous number of these bloodline families out of the Near East, these reptile human bloodlines, came out of northern France and Belgium, what we call that area now anyway, and went into Scotland almost en masse. Within 150 years, these bloodlines were running Scotland, and they have the names today that we think are Scottish. We go, Hamilton, Orkney, and MacDougall, Orkney. Scottish? No. They came out of that area of northern France and Belgium. And they were the same bloodlines. Robert the Bruce was one of them, that the Templars were connected to. So the Templars went into friendly territory. And they went underground because of the purge, and they re-emerged eventually as the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. This is why the biggest secret society in the world today that pervades world politics, business, banking, the media, etc., is called the Scottish Rite, after this tiny country at the top of the British Isles, because that's where the Templars went when the purge happened. This is a Knights Templar. You'll see the red cross on the white background. That was the Phoenician fire cross or sun cross. And this is why the flag of England is a red cross on the white background. It's also why you had the Red Cross organization, which is also linked to this network at the highest level. Now, here's the flag of England. It's called the St. George's Cross. Now, two big British deities were St. George, who killed the dragon,